Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Maverick family and new viewers. Great to have everybody here. Big night tonight. Feature interview coming right up with Pastor Arthur Pawlowski. He has a new book out. We're going to talk about his experiences living under communism in Poland, why his family came to Canada, and what life has been like here since his arrival. I mean, he's been on the program a couple of times before. I'm sure you're all familiar with him, and we're going to find out what's new with Pastor Art. And we will bring you the day's top news stories on the other side of this. Do not go away.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's bring in our guest for tonight, Pastor Art. Hello, sir. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, thank you so much for having me back.
Our privilege. I am so excited to speak with you tonight. There's so much that we need to get caught up on. It's been quite a while since you've been on the program. And I guess first up, we should mention that you have a new book coming out. What can you tell us about that? It's called Lions Do Not Bow.
Yes, that's right. I'm very excited about this because most of the time when I do shows and interviews, people or preach at different events and conferences and churches, people ask me to share my story. And I'm telling you, it's impossible to share my story. When people ask me, can you tell us about arrest? Which one? I was arrested 16 times. When they ask me about the court, which one? Over 120 court cases, Court of Appeals, criminal charges, Court of Queen's Bench, King's Bench right now, provincial, you name it. It's unbelievable with the charges. Which one? Over 350 charges that I received, about 50 during the big lie. So it's an impossible task to share this story. And of course, you add my family, you add 12 arrests of my brother David, because he's my brother and the government tried to destroy not just me, but my family. And then you add 5 arrests of my son, just because he dared to speak at the parliament, European Parliament, telling the European people about what's happening in our beloved Canada. So the book is giving me this enormous opportunity to put everything down, to tell people the background story of why I call those people Gestapo Nazi, what happened when they came, what led to this whole thing, what happened in prison during the arrests, what happened when the cameras were not rolling, the conversations, the political fixers, the bribery that I received from the government over 10 different meetings with the government operatives coming to my home, offering a guaranteed seat for me at the legislature, offered me a government job. I was offered already $2 million to keep my mouth shut, not to expose them. So you will learn about the political meetings between Jason Kenney and Pierre Poilievre, the new savior of Canada, and Stephen Harper, ex-prime minister. You will be able to see the background story of my conversation and phone call with the premier. What happened? Why I did not take the trinkets, the silver coin, if you will. What was behind my motivation, that I just didn't want to simply become a puppet of the establishment, just because they were giving me things. They thought I'm for sale and I will be easily manipulated. So all of those different things, and of course what happened and why they put me in metal cages, why I was arrested with a force that probably you have never seen before in a history of this country. I was arrested by every police organization, if you will, in the country. I was arrested by detectives, undercover Calgary police, uniformed Calgary police, RCMP officers, SWAT team, anti-terrorists. Why a little pastor like me, without criminal record, without any background violence, without even being charged with any, assault charges or any violent crimes, why I have become so dangerous. So the book, The Lions Do Not Bow, will give you all those different things. And I'm naming them, I'm shaming them, and I'm connecting the dots. Why a priest, a pastor, a clergy has become so dangerous to those pathological liars. Why they viewed me as one of the most dangerous people in Canada, believe it or not, when I was locked in MaxPot for the most dangerous terrorists in the country. So there's so much more. I mean, I can talk just a little here and there for hours and hours. Well, the book will be able to tell you all those different things. And I'm very excited about this because, like I said, you will be able to maybe a little bit understand what was in my head and why I am so different than most of your clergy in this country. Why, for me, to bow or to take bribery was an unaccepted thing. And again, I grew up, as you can tell, behind the Iron Curtain, under the boots of the Soviets. I grew up in hell, if you will. When people ask me how it was growing up under the boots of the Soviets, the first thing that comes to mind is hell. Every time that any people, subdue, control, threaten, murder, intimidate, harass, or use power over other people, it's hell. Because we were always born, and all of us, we were born to be free. Deep inside of us, we have this desire of being free. However, you've got lots of crazy people, lots of psychopaths, that they, I guess, grew up with an understanding that, it would be cool to take that freedom away from other people. And we can use coercion and lying, cheating, manipulating, and then just pure evil, murder, and other violent things. I grew up in a country where you didn't have a real justice system, very similar to the justice system we are observing in our beloved Canada here, where an accused was already guilty before he had his time in court. We call those trials political show trials. When you enter that room, and usually the people that during that time under communism and socialism, and of course during the Nazi era, when they came to that room, usually they were carried on stretchers because they were tortured, beaten, and of course the police say, the famous saying was always, well, they slept and they hit the floor, right? And they had the fingernails taken, and you could tell they were severely tortured for a very long time. But for judges, that was all okay, because the judges were already told by the politicians how the story ends. In Poland, growing up, if you listened to a European radio, I mean, such a trivial thing, right? We go and we listen to different things, and we Google different things, and we do our research. I hope you do. I know I do. That's what I was doing today. I spent the whole day researching for my next sermon. I take my job very seriously. So I look, I cross reference. I want to give people pure, to the best of my ability, pure truth. Well, if you had that desire in Poland behind the Iron Curtain, and if you dared to listen to a European radio, well, you would go to prison for 5 years. But that's not the end of your trouble. First, you were tortured severely, and then you were tortured some more, and then you were sentenced, and then you were tortured some more. So when you came out of prison, you were completely broken, man. You would never dare to do anything contrary to the wishes of your masters, the communists and the socialists.
So do you see those same political forces in play now in Canada? Is that what we've been experiencing since the rise of the pandemic and after?
100%. I mean, why do you think I reacted the way I did? Sometimes when people watch me, or put it this way, when they watch my interactions with those authorities, it's not that I hate people in uniform. I used to honor the uniform. To me, uniform was something so beautiful because they were the men in blue, the good guys. Well, I don't see them anymore that way because they are the agents of a totalitarian, I call it the soft dictatorship, which we're experiencing right now. Maybe you're right. Maybe someone listening may say, well, it's not that bad. Yes, I agree with you. It's not that bad yet, but we're moving into that direction. You don't want to wait. Waking up one morning when they're busting through the doors and they beat your wife, rape your wife, take your children away, and imprison you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about this. There are no human rights. There are no rights whatsoever because those people with guns and tasers and handcuffs don't follow any rules. And that's communism. That's fascism. That's socialism. And we are seeing this hybrid in our beloved Canada right now being implemented, if you will, in front of our very eyes. Growing up behind the Iron Curtain, it was a life of a white-tailed deer. What do I mean by this? It was every day you wake up and you're looking for necessities of life. You're chasing after this, you're chasing after that. You couldn't just go to a store and buy whatever you needed because it was the government that was allowing you. For example, the government was telling you how much sugar you can buy every month. Imagine that. I know when I share those stories, for a Canadian mind, people have a hard time to comprehend what I'm saying. The government was telling you a trivial thing like going and buying sugar was the government that was allocating only so much every month. It was the government that was telling you how much beef you can have. Imagine that. We're already looking in front of our eyes, governments trying to do that in Canada. The red tape, the attack on our farmers, the food supplies. Everything is being manifested in front of our very eyes. It was the government that was telling us how much chocolate we can buy for our children. I only saw chocolates usually once a year, sometimes twice a year, Christmas and my birthday. If my mom was extremely blessed and was able to either exchange with something so she can give me that gift, and my God, only every few years she managed to get me a chocolate with peanuts in it. That was a miracle. You have no idea. To this day, when I see that chocolate, it triggers the memories from childhood. What I did, chocolates have those little bars, and if it happened that in that little tiny bar had a peanut in it, I would leak the chocolate around and save the peanut for the next day. My Canadian American Western mind cannot even comprehend what I'm saying to you right now. It's so hard. We saw my brother David. I think he was 5 or 6. I'll never forget that. Our family will never forget this. My mom was able to buy a banana, one for me, one for him. And I ate mine. And of course, I was older than my brother David, so I knew that you don't eat the outside thing. But my brother was sucking the whole thing. He was eating even the peel, and we caught him hiding behind a door. He was trying to eat the whole thing because he has never ever tasted a banana before. That's, my friends, life under totalitarian regime. And the fascism, Nazi was no different. It was only the elites that had more and more and more, and the rest of the German people, if you know your history, were struggling, were suffering. German people during the war were greatly suffering, and they were using coercion. For example, during the Nazi era, if you would not go to war, if you would dare not to join Wehrmacht, then the family would not receive the food stamps. So the family was being penalized because they would say, you're a coward. You don't want to fight for Hitler. Therefore, the family has to suffer, and they would be deprived of necessities of life. That's how they were forcing people. And we've seen the same tactics in the past few years. Of course, our prime minister comes recently, says, oh, we never force anyone to take the job. That's not true. That's a big fat lie. The whole apparatus of the government was forcing us, or we would be penalized. We would be destroyed. We would be starving. We were treated like the Jews of 21st century, not allowed to go to different places. Recently, and I don't want you to take this in the wrong way. I'm not happy that this is happening, but it's a little bit of a vindication. Remember when we were not allowed to go to restaurants because we were treated like a second class, worse than a second class citizens? I remember my conversation with my wife, and I said, it's okay for me to never go back to a restaurant. It's fine. That's the price I'm willing to pay. I'll be barbecuing, and I will invite my friends and my family to my home. And that's exactly what happened. Every day I had people for dinners and coffees and other things. I was barbecuing, and I said, it's fine with my soul, never ever to go back to a restaurant. But here is a fascinating part of the story. They were more than happy to do this to us. And now, just a couple days ago, I learned that in North America, over 200,000 restaurants are closing as we speak. So, in other words, what I'm saying is, when you sell your soul to the devil, when you sell humanity, your friends, your neighbors, your family members for a silver coin, like Judas Iscariot, in the end of the day, you will lose it all. And I always say to the people in the church that, remember this, my friends, that to that silver, when you betray what is good, what is decent, when you betray God, faith, family, friends, humanity, remember that to that silver, there is a rope attached to it. And now I'm watching 200,000 restaurants closing down, and I'm thinking, my God, if those people, those owners would only stand with the truckers and farmers, if they would stand with me when I was brutally arrested, when I was tortured, when I was intimidated, harassed, invaded, when they tried to burn my house and my children when we were sleeping. I'm sure you remember, there were assassination attempts on me, multiple, not just one. They lit our house on fire in the middle of the night. Only by the miracle of God we survived. They lit our church on fire. They burned down our children's baths. They vandalized our church for months. Every week they were vandalizing. They broke into our church, stole our equipment, 3 times. They vandalized my vehicles, broke windshields. They painted our cars. They unscrewed tire in my pickup truck, trying to murder me and my children while driving. I mean, I was physically attacked. I was threatened on a regular basis, not just by the police. I was threatened by health inspectors. I was threatened by everybody else. A doctor, family doctor. We don't have a family doctor because our family doctor kicked us out. Says, I don't want people like you. This is the penalty. This is the price that you have to pay in order to stand for what's right. And I'm thinking to myself, if those people, if they would only stand with us, this whole charade, this whole lie, this attack on our fundamentally guaranteed in our beloved Canada, right? Freedoms given to us by God and state under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and which starts in the preamble, with the preamble, whereas Canada acknowledges the supremacy of God and the rule of God of law.
Right.
If those people would stick with us, I think that their businesses would still thrive, because people like us, we would gladly support people that stood with us. And that's what I do on a regular basis. When I know that the business stood during this craziness, I am more than happy to support them and talk about them and give them tips. And that's how you survive. You survive an attack of a totalitarian regime when you stick together as a family, as a community. That's how solidarity won. People say to me, well, the elections are rigged, therefore there is no hope. No, you don't understand the concept. Give me enough Canadians and I will give you back sanity. Give me enough Canadians and I will bring you back your liberty. Give me enough Canadians and I'll bring you back prosperity. It's not that difficult. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just have to be a good man that goes into the place of power because you want to serve people. And of course, that concept right now is so foreign to the politicians that they don't even understand what I'm saying. Serving, they're masters. They're the wannabe pharaohs. And we're just a social insurance number. We are slaves to them. So growing up in Poland, I think, when I look at my life, and I'm sometimes thinking, God, why me? I mean, I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy. I just want to be left alone, and that's the funny part of my story. I told them many times, just leave me alone. You will never hear about Arthur Pawlowski, because I don't care about the media and the flashes. I just truly want to be left alone. But because they're not leaving me alone, my only weapon that I have is my camera and talking to people like you and others, because what else can I do to get the support against this apparatus of evil? Because this fight is good versus evil. Don't kid yourself. So Polish people, how Polish people did it, they had no guns, and that's what I said many times to the people. And my speech, my sermon that I was imprisoned for and charged with terrorism, and I was charged of inciting mischief and breach of probation. I faced decades of imprisonment for my.
Are you talking about the incident in Coots? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, the truck convoy,
Speech
right?
there.
I was part. I was part of the truck convoy. I'm super proud that I was part of truck convoy, because they called me and they said, they asked me if I would be willing to be their pastor. And so I conducted series of church services, and I was more than happy to go to Milk River and then to Coots to do the same thing. And during my speeches, I always told them, listen, I'm a Polish immigrant. I've seen the power of the united force of the people when the people said enough is enough. And they didn't use guns and swords. That's why I said, no guns, no swords. You don't need that stuff. There's more of us. They don't have enough police officers. They don't have enough RCMP officers to tackle millions of people that simply say, we refuse to cooperate. We will not work for you. Imagine millions of Canadians just for 1 week, united in solidarity with each other, saying, we are in solidarity with the truckers and we will not go to work for 1 week if you will not reverse this craziness. The whole country would collapse, and the government knows it. That's why they were so much afraid of it. And solidarity won, not because they were using guns and tanks and bullets and shooting police. No, that was not needed. What was needed is people coming together and saying, no, we're not allowing you to do this to us anymore. And it was over.
And not to diminish what was going on there. It was a struggle, starting with the strikes in the shipyard and the solidarity movement in general. It took some time, but it was highly effective, and I don't think the Soviets at the time really knew what hit them.
Yeah, and it's easy to retaliate, if you will, if someone is shooting. So if the Polish people were shooting at the soldiers or police, that would be a easy thing for them. They would just kill a bunch of people, arrest thousands or tens of thousands, and that would be over. But you know how we fought? We fought with the word of God. I will never forget the masses taking it to the streets with a big cross, chanting, "We want God, we want God, we want God." And the Soviets didn't know how to deal with that stuff. And also, when you got 100,000 people and they all go to their knees, how you deal with that? Well, you can beat the first few hundred, but what about 100,000 people, women and children? You're going to just keep beating them and beating them? Don't you have children? And some of those people in front of you are your families and your neighbors. What you're going to do? It breaks the psyche. You know, it creates something that even the worst monsters don't know how to deal with. That's power. And I was telling Canadian people, you know, we gotta restructure this movement. We have to do it the right way, because what we're dealing with right now is a bunch of people that know history, and that's the problem. Most of the people do not know history, so they don't know how to apply what worked before. Instead of reinventing the wheel, I say let's use what worked before, because the enemy is using, you know, they're reading a script and they are flipping the pages of a script how to become a tyrant. Well, if we're dealing with tyrants, and of course that's clearly being seen right now, we're dealing with psychopaths, liars, and tyrants, wannabe pharaohs. So, what worked before? How Mahatma Gandhi did it, right? It's a great example. He fought with the most powerful empire at that time. So, how did he do it? I studied the whole thing, everything I could find, hundreds of documentaries on Mahatma Gandhi, and I was fascinated how he did it. Of course, my philosophy and my faith differs from his philosophy and faith. However, simple tactics apply here and did apply there. So, how Martin Luther King Jr. did it with the civil rights movement in United States of America, how the solidarity movement did it with Lech Wałęsa. I mean, you can clearly see the pattern. You don't fight fire with fire. You have to just get enough people that are sick and tired of being hurting and seeing their families hurting, and bring them together under one umbrella and push the evil away. And of course, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we'll have to deal with other set of tyrants. And that just, I don't like it, but unfortunately, that's history. While the Canadian people disagreed with me, and they have chosen a different path, and that's fine. There will be consequences for that. We are still dealing with dictators, and those that will replace those dictators are no better, because you got to remember, all the parties, all the ruling parties are working for WEF. You must understand that, and if you don't, I encourage you to do your research. Harper brought WEF to Canada. Paris Accord, he brought it with Pierre Poilievre to this country. It's the conservative government that opened the door for this great evil that we have been subjected to. But people don't want to look at the facts. They want to see that, it's like this revolving door. Let's vote for the lesser of two evils because we have no choice. No, we always have choice. We can just say we will never vote for the people that did this to us. And all the three governments that did, I call them the Nazi liberals, the communist, socialist NDPers that are not even hiding that they are socialist communists, and then the treacherous, I call them the traitors conservative party. They all were in it together. So how do we deal with this? Well, let's cut them out and let's form a new government or new political party, and let's pump this party, fill it with good people, good candidates, not professional politicians, but just neighbors that care, want to serve the people, and replace them. I mean, that's how every political party started. You see, do you think, I don't understand how people don't understand such a simple thing. The liberals didn't wake up one day and they had millions of supporters. It takes time, it takes decades, it takes hard work, it takes resources, it takes number of people coming together and saying, okay, we want to form a political entity. Conservatives, it took decades, and they merged with other parties. It took time until they were able to be this powerhouse.
So, do you see
Of
any options on the table right now with either the PPC or this new United Party of Canada with Grant Abraham, or any other possibilities there? Or do you think something entirely new again needs to be created?
No, I'll tell you this. My dog would do a better job than all of those politicians that we have in power right now. I'll tell you why. Not because my dog is so smart. My dog doesn't want to hurt you. In the mind of my dog, there is no intention of hurting you. You give him food and water, get him out, and he's a happy camper. What we're dealing with power hungry beasts. Beasts, they are like wild animals that tasted the blood of a human, and they will never stop hunting us because the blood is too sweet. During the time when we were hurting all the levels of government, all the political parties were giving themselves races, as you remember, were protecting themselves while we were losing, hurting. So the people that they swore to protect and work for, we were dying, being destroyed by the policies and mandates. They were partying, as you remember, the Sky Palace party, and federal government. I mean, everywhere, every province, the same thing. They were drinking, partying, breaking their own rules and regulations,
That's right.
while we were arrested without
Yes.
mercy, and no one came to our aid. So I would say this to you. There is this famous saying: fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Why? Because by now I should know. I should know better that you're a snake, scorpion, or viper, or whatever you want to call those people. And their intention is to keep biting, keep poisoning us. And I'll go as far as, and I'm sure I'm going to get some enemies, but I am at the point I don't really care that the carbon tax, I believe that was invented by a coalition of all those ruling parties, conservatives and the liberals coming together. And liberals know there is this shift happening from the pendulum is swinging from the left to the right all across the globe right now. People are sick and
Yes.
tired of this woke, rogue, crazy traitors, so they want alternatives. They want someone else. So conservatives are getting a little bit of a momentum. So they know that Justin Trudeau, our own domestic terrorist, Castro Caligula, as I call him, he's out, that the liberals will not win. There's no way they can win unless they're cheating. So they know that. So I think they invented another totally crazy tax to give to Pierre Poilievre so he can run with it and, yelling and screaming, axe the tax. What about the other taxes? What about the temporary taxes that we were told are only for a short time, like income tax and other taxes? They're killing us. They're killing our economy. They're killing our families. It used to be just not that long ago when, 40 years ago, a father or one person in the household will have to go to work, and another, either mother or father was taking care of the children. And now both parents work, and sometimes two jobs, just to pay the bills. You know that half of Canadians are struggling as we speak right now. 44% of Canadians are struggling to pay their monthly bills. Do you know the majority of Canadians are $200 away from homelessness? How come? We are living in the most amazing place on earth. Canada is absolutely beautiful and filled with resources. If I had the
Yep.
power, I would turn Canada into, into Dubai, if you will, into a place that will be the most prosperous place on earth. We are literally sleeping on resources. We have everything your heart desires in the mountains. gold, silver, uranium, you name it, dig it out and bless the people. But of course, that's not on an agenda. A globalistic agenda is to kill our industry, to destroy our energy sector, to impoverish the Canadian people. Do you know that out of the G7 countries, Canadians are in the worst shape if it comes to personal debt and national debt per capita? Look, they're killing us. This is a controlled demolition. So, to answer to you,
Mhm.
I would vote for any other person that has not been part of this apparatus of evil, if you will, that I witnessed in the past 4 years, and that person would do a better job than all of those people combined together. So either PPC with Maxime Bernier or Grant Abraham, um, every alternative, anyone but those people. I'll tell you why. Because historically, again, I teach history. So history is a big part of what I do because you can learn so much from the past mistakes and also from the past victories, right? If you do not know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're heading. You must learn from the mistakes of others, or you will. There's no other option. You will repeat them and wars. So, historically speaking, every new party is outdoing themselves, if you will, because they want to prove to the people that they were actually the right choice. So you've got a new set of people, a new brand new party, and they will be doing everything for you to persuade you that they were the right choice so you can elect them again. The problem starts, I would say, historically, fourth election. So after 12 years, 15 years or so, corruption creeps in. And unfortunately, I can't give you an answer to that problem because I will have to remove humans out of this situation. Humans unfortunately always fall into this greed, selfishness, pride, corruption. But the first 2 3 elections, my friends, are you're going to be blessed beyond your imagination. A new party, either provincially or federally, will outdo themselves. They will be fighting for you. They will be digging whatever it needs to be dug so they can bless you, so they can restore your freedoms, so they can pass legislation, laws of protection, because they want your approval. They need, psychologically, they need to prove to you that you have not made a mistake. If you're settling for the lesser of two evils, you got evil. There is no escaping this. This is a revolving door. So my question to the Canadian people is very simple. Are you better off than 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? Are you better off now? Or let me put it this way. In the province of Alberta, we have a new government with a savior of Alberta, Danielle Smith. I warned the people about this woman because I know her personally. We were in the same party. I have been always in politics, in the background. I have always been around action, if you will. Of course, from the Christian point of view, and I was in advisory committee quite often, and I know her. I know her when we were together in the Wild Rose Party. And I don't know if you remember, if you're familiar with Alberta's politics, but she crossed the floor with about 10 or so, a dozen of MLAs, completely killing our new party. She destroyed it. And we would be the next government. But because she was promised by Jim Prentice at the time, Premier of Alberta, that she will become the Deputy Premier, that was very alluring for her. And she sold us for a silver coin, and other dozen MLAs did the same thing. So effectively, she destroyed the movement. And I said that to the people when there was a second test for the woman during the convoy and during the, rallies and protests. Where was she? And nowhere to be found. She did not march with us. She didn't stand with us. She didn't bleed with us. She was not risking anything. She was actually very well paid as a talk host, QR77, and eventually she saw an opportunity. She quit, and she joined the race, and she won, and people believed her. So 2 years later now, are we better off? And that's what I'm asking Albertans. So we got Conservative Party, the same party that locked us, arrested more pastors than the Chinese regime, destroyed our businesses, murdered our children and our elderly. 2 years later, are we better off, or we are in worst shape? And everyone I talk to, of course, like outside of the government bureaucracy, which is over 450,000 people working for the government in the province of Alberta, every single one says we are in worse shape than we were. Well, I told you so, because as long as you will not understand that those people did not pass the test and they are just doing the same thing, some of them will do it slower, others will do it faster, but we are all being led to the slaughterhouse agenda 2030. They all are working for the globalist agenda. Now, with the water thing, I don't know if you're paying attention what's happening in Calgary. It's insanity. We had an incident with a water pipe. I talked to the workers. I have friends now everywhere. So city worker that works there came to me and said, Art, normally we would fix this in 3 days. No issues, no problems. But they're dragging it already a month and a half. And and here is a joke. We can now finally water our trees and our plants. However, we cannot do it with a hose. We must use the hose and put the water into a bucket and then use the bucket to water our plants. Those people in power, they think we're idiots, that we're stupid. We have no brain. Today you can water, but only with this. Tomorrow you cannot. You can shower, but the mayor, Jody Gondek, said that when we flush toilet, we should put a bucket and catch some water to save water. This is a new level of insanity. They are using this to control what is happening. This is a test number 2. They're conditioning us to restrictions. Because if you go to WEF, you will find out that the number one issue right now on their own pages is water restrictions. It's like it's a playbook. It's in front of our eyes, but for whatever reason, people are not seeing it. Maybe I see it because I grew up in hell, and when hell, comes close, I can smell it, I can see it right away, and I'm like, this is bad, people, this is horrible. I've seen it before. This is a monster, and this monster is a clever liar. He's a good manipulator. It tells you sweet things, but in the end, it's disaster and murder. So those politicians are giving you sweet honey. It's honey in their mouths, but it turns into bitter afterwards. And I'm doing my best, of course, to educate people, but I'm just one little guy, and it is what it is. So what I did from my end, because I'm not going to let those people off the hook for what they have done, and maybe also because I am a pastor, maybe that's why I am a little bit more aggressive or frustrated or determined, put it this way, because I deal with suffering all the time. It's people that call me that their family members are dying. They're calling me to cry with them when their daughter or a son, suddenly died without any apparent reason after, 5th booster.